Hey everyone, this is Jason Stash Olson from Booker T's Reality of Wrestling, and you're listening to Houston Wrestling Radio with Abel and Travis.
Hey there, this is Tex Lone Star from Doomsday Wrestling.
And this is Dr. Sancho.
And you are listening to Houston Wrestling Radio with Travis and Abel.
This is the Rockstar Robbie Gilmore of Booker T's Reality of Wrestling, and you are listening to Houston Wrestling Radio.
Hello and welcome everyone to another edition of Houston Wrestling Radio. This is Abel.
And this is Travis.
And thanks so much for tuning in and listening here today, guys. I don't know if you're there on the official webpage, HoustonWrestlingRadio.com, or if you're listening to us because you downloaded us on iTunes. If you did, great, thank you. And hey, we're also on the YouTube now, so if you're listening to us there, awesome, thanks. Also, we have a little bit more growth coming on with our Facebook page.
Yes, sir.
That's pretty cool. It's growing. And if you guys want to give us a like, I'd very much appreciate it. Facebook.com/Houston Wrestling Radio. And of course, we always have our Twitter tweeting away at H Wrestling Radio. Whew, yeah, that's a mouthful. We're all over the place now.
All over the place.
Yes. We have another pretty good show going on today. Don't you think so, Trav?
One of these days you're going to be right about that.
Oh, I think I'm right about it today.
Oh, you think so, huh?
Yes, I think so, because we have a very special guest today.
Oh, we do?
Yes, we do. We have the current GCPPW Heavyweight Champ. He is also the current CWF Heavyweight Champ. Oh, and he's also the TASW Heavyweight Champ.
How many belts does this guy have over here?
So far I've counted 3.
Oh, wow.
I don't know. He might have another one hidden somewhere else. He's a mainstay at Booker T's ROW. He's just a general wrestling guru here in the Houston, South Texas area. And he is the host of the Lucha Lounge. Whew, that's a lot. Okay. He is none other than Sexy Steve DeMarco.
Thank you both, Abel and Travis. It's such a great honor to be here with you fine gentlemen to talk wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Not only mainstream wrestling, but, independent wrestling. I appreciate that as a independent wrestler, guys, been on the scene for a lot of years. To have you guys talk openly and support it, man, that we need more of that. So I really appreciate you guys.
We're bringing it back.
Yeah. And I'm bringing sexy back. No, that's okay. Oh, man.
Well, see, Abel's going to call you sexy. I'm sorry. I'm not going to call another man sexy.
I have guys always say, I'm not going to call you that. And then by the end of the night, they call me that. It's just you're very confident in your own sexuality. If you call me sexy, right. It's fine. It's fine. It's in my name. I don't.
Yeah, it's who he is.
Do you think by the end of the show when we call him sexy?
Probably.
All right, let's see what happens here.
Okay, now, not only are we going to have Steve on, you know what, just to annoy you, Travis, not only are we going to have Sexy on today,
geez.
but we're not only going to have him for an interview, but he's also going to be here for the whole show. Right. Just chatting away with all the stuff that we got going on.
Good, someone on my side that can,
It's my way of giving back.
Thank you.
You give me time, you interview me, put me on this fine show. I figure I'd help out.
Thank you, Steve.
No problem.
Because I
and
need
so
much help.
it begins. And so it begins.
I need the help with this guy over here. This wet
Whoa,
noodle.
what do you mean? Yeah.
No. Hey. I'm on the fence right now, so we'll see maybe I'll be part Team Abel or Team Travis. We'll see.
Unbiased ref over here.
He's calling it right down
Oh,
the middle.
jeez. Oh, God. Okay.
We both did the right down the middle
I saw that,
gesture.
yes.
I forget this is not. There's not TV cameras on. I'm used to that. I'm used to it.
That is a running joke with all our guests. The freaking TV cameras. One of these days we'll have a TV.
We're gonna have to describe what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Travis is now picking his nose.
Nice.
All right.
Nice.
Damn it.
All right. Let's get into the official interview here. Steve, I want to start where, everything starts with us as kids. Me and Travis both, fans when we were kids, long time, all our lives wrestling fans. I would assume that somebody that has wanted to pursue wrestling as a career is also the same way. Can you tell me a little bit about wrestling in your childhood?
Yeah, probably the first match I ever saw was Ric Flair, Kerry Von Erich, Texas Stadium for the NWA World Title.
Yes.
Kerry wins with the backslide.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Ric Flair was, I was a big fan of the Von Erichs, but, I gotta hand it to Rick. I thought, he was truly charismatic and is still a charismatic figure. And I was a fan like everyone else. I was a big fan of NWA, WCW. I was a big fan of the Freebirds, big fan of the Von Erichs. I mean, I grew up watching it and got into WWE, Ultimate Warrior, Hogan. I mean, I think WrestleMania 6 would probably still go down in history as one of the greatest matches. Same thing with Hogan and Andre, probably one of the biggest matches of all time. Been a fan pretty much all through it. I'm still a fan. I think I'm a mark for it. I think any wrestler who really has a passion for it is a mark for it. I mean, that's how we all start. We're fans. Yeah. We enjoy it, the theatrics. We enjoy the over-the-top aspect of it. And, I'm no different. I've been a fan. My parents said when I was probably like 8 or 9 that I was destined to be a wrestler because I seemingly wanted to do that, wanted to be a character of some sort.
That's cool. Yeah.
And so I pursued it years later.
That's cool, living the dream, huh?
Yes. Yeah. As close to the dream as you can.
Well, speaking of, pursuing it, let's get into that a little bit. How did you break into the business? How long ago was it? What started out? What is the first chapter, I guess you could say?
Well, I was actually in the Navy. I was serving my country, and that was during the time of the Monday Night Wars. And a few of my fellow servicemen, we talked about joining a wrestling school when you got out. Yeah. Like, when I get out, this is what I'm going to do when I retire from the Navy, this is what I'm going to do. So it piqued my interest. I was always a fan, always wanting to do it. I moved to Austin and thought, okay, I'm working for the state. I thought, well, I really want to pursue it. I'm on my own. My family doesn't need to help me. I've got this money. Let me see what I can do. And the first place I went to, Shawn Michaels, Texas Wrestling Academy. Yeah. He had retired the first time. Right. And I went by there he used to do it, in San Antonio. He used to do TV tapings. I saw like Daniel Bryan and Spanky doing like 3 matches back to back. And they used to film 3 shows in one. Got to meet Shawn Michaels, got to meet his wife, got to meet his mom who handled the business aspect, saw the brochure, and was going to join his school, but they wanted $4,000 before you stepped foot in a ring. It wasn't, It was $2,000 when you filled out the brochure, $2,000 before you stepped foot. Now, I didn't have that kind of money. I was working for the state, wasn't really making a whole lot. So I was like, well, as much as I want to work for Shawn, because that's the guy that I really idolized growing up, and as far as smaller guy who could really get the most out of it, I thought that's the guy. So I was looking at the Austin Chronicle, their weekend of events, and on the back page they said, do you want to be a pro wrestler? And I went, well, let me give this guy a call. And I had happened to see this company that ran the school. They did some public access stuff. So I'd seen their product, indie wrestling, but I needed to get my foot in the door. So I called them probably from January 2000 for like every couple of days, and I would never get a call back. Finally, I got a call back, probably late January. So I went to their facility, and they're basically in a warehouse. It's not air conditioned, not heated. There's a ring and a room, and it's like really the Class A environment that it was. This is where stars are made. And so I proceeded to go, and when I was checking out the school, the first thing that was brought to my attention is the money guy. This guy who wrestled by the name of Papa Don, he was Ray Campos, told me that if I joined the school, I had to make sure that I made my payments and showed up to every class or I would be blackballed. And I took it real serious. I was scared out of my mind of that term, blackballed. Like, you'll never work anywhere. And I'm like, man, I haven't even started school yet. What are you doing? But the good thing was his school was about $2,500, and it was, you pay a monthly fee. You pay $250 down, and you pay $250 till you pay up. So I started in February of 2000. Quickly in the first week, I partially separated my shoulder. I took a headlock takeover, and the guy fell on top of me as I'm going over on him. They're basically supposed to give you a place to jump over. Well, as soon as my shoulder hit, he fell on top of me and partially separated. But I had that fear. Yeah. And on top of it, I'm paying my money that could go to anything, could go to rent, could go, everything was paid for, but it was still like, that's $2,500 that I don't want to part with.
And you said that was within the first week?
First week.
Oh, that's just like Stash.
Yeah, and I luckily there was a physical therapist there, so they gave me some things to do to keep my shoulder from getting worse. So within 2 months of my first ever bump in a ring, I was on a show. And I was happy to get on a show, basically they're always told you take your gear. You talk to any wrestler, that's the golden rule.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you're on the card, doesn't matter if you're just going with friends, always take your gear. I happen to be going just to check out an independent show. Papa Don was going to a show, so I got to ride along with them, of course, pay for gas, all this. Money coming out of my pocket. It wasn't like I was planning on working, but I obviously took my gear. They had a cancellation. I got to work Flaming Rose. I hear Ransom come on this show say, my first match was Booker T. Well, my first match was Flaming Rose. It was
Flaming Rose.
Flaming Rose wore a mask, kissed me. First time I've ever been. Yeah, first time I've ever been punched in the face, like legit.
Was by a guy named Flaming Rose.
Flaming Rose. Yeah.
He punched you and he kissed you.
Yes. Yeah. So I think he punched me first and then kissed me to make it feel better. I don't know. But I got to win my first match. I got to win my first couple of matches. And from there I was hooked. I'd always said my goal when I first started was just to have a match. I think I just read Mick Foley's book. And so that was his goal. So my goal was, I'm not thinking WWE. I'm not thinking WCW. I'm not thinking, ROH. I'm thinking, I just want to wrestle. Yeah. I just want to wrestle on a show. And I felt like, okay, I'm going to give it 6 months, a year, just to get it out of my system. I'll pay for this schooling and I'll see where I'm at in a year. Yeah. And April 2001, we'll still do it. I mean, every year in April I go about it. So I've been doing it 13 years. I have, I have a tattoo on my arm. It's 13 stars, one for every year. Oh, really? And when I got that, I went, well, I have been doing this quite a while. So, I'm expecting 14 and 15, but, I'm at the age where it's like, well, I'm on 13 now. 14's about to start.
Lucky 13, right?
Yeah. 14's about to start. We'll see if I get that tattoo in a year from now. So.
All right. And, that was basically how you had started out. Where I know you from is from Booker T's ROW, and actually before that, I mean, it's called ROW now, but, was PWA. Mm-hmm. I remember seeing you there in the early days. How'd you come about to getting involved with that?
Okay. So let's fast forward. 2006. By that point, I had wrestled for NWA. I'd been their Texas Heavyweight Champion. I'd won that a couple times. Been on their anniversary show. I had wrestled Hotsta Fernandez numerous times. I'd wrestled Vampiro. I'd wrestled Christopher Nowinski. I'd wrestled, kind of some names and some guys that were along my line. I used to team up with Paul London back before he got to ROH. And he was one of the driving forces of like, you need to get out there. You need to get out there.
Yeah.
After NWA Southwest had folded, or they lost their building, and it became we're just going to kind of piggyback off of the other companies, I had gotten to the point after the anniversary show of trying to find television. I got to find a place that runs TV and NWA did to an extent, but I wanted to find the next step. So I went to PCW, and I was there for 3 years. Got to wrestle Sabu, got to wrestle Mike Fox. I mean, there was a litany of guys, Jarrett Steele, a who's who list of guys, Action Jackson. I mean, I could go on, list on and on. They ran television. They were on UPN at the time. They ran weekly. And at one point, I would also book they had a Saturday televised show. Their Friday show was kind of the developmental show. That's how we treated it. I would book that show on top of being their champ on their Saturday show. I won every belt that PCW could possibly hold. So, it got to the point where the girl I was dating at the time was my valet. I was doing everything to kind of keep my interest. Because at some point, you win every title, and you've done everything, and you've competed against everyone. Competed against Lance Hoyt, had massive feuds with him, massive feuds with Mike Fox. Like I said, work Sabu. I got to work people, and I was on TV, but we were spinning our wheels. And in some respects, they were kind of ahead of their time because their big thing was, well, we want to put our shows on smartphones. And this is before 2006. Yeah. Not everyone had YouTube. Yeah. YouTube was just being created. Yeah. You didn't have it, but they were ahead of their time. They streamed shows, put them on their website, a lot of stuff. But again, it was like we want it paid for, whereas opposed to YouTube where it's out there for the masses. Right, yeah. So at that point, I kind of was spinning my wheels, and there was a conversation I was having with the owner who said, imagine how it's going to be in 10 years when we're still doing this. And I'm going, okay, well, I'm still getting paid roughly the same amount. You're not making $1 million. I need to figure out what I'm going to do. And I was 6 years in, so I was like, I've worked enough. I've done TV. Now's the next step. The next step is WWE. Because at that point, I'm running into like Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin and a few others that I'm running through the independents, and they're all telling me the same thing. You need to get to a bigger stage. You need to find a way to the next thing. I had friends, Russell Simpson, he was training guys at OVW. they were talking about Florida. They were talking about Georgia. I mean, it was kind of an influx. And this idea, my friend Franco D'Angelo, who I teamed up with later on, had said, hey, I'm going up to Booker's. Okay, I'll go check it out. He's like, you want to come? I was, that's cool. So I showed up to their building in Commerce and met Booker T for the very first time. What he is on camera is how he is in real life. There's no off button. That's the guy. And much to his credit, he was very gracious and very welcoming of me. And at the time, he didn't have me or Jared Steele or Russell Simmons. He didn't have veterans. He had students. He was concerned about just creating his own talent because his thinking was, if I get a guy who's been on the indies, he's going to have these habits. He's going to assume this is a certain way, and he's going to give me pushback. I want guys that are fresh, that don't have any preconceived notions.
He can mold.
He can mold.
Yeah.
Because again, there is that debugging. But luckily for me, when I showed up and met him, Charlie Haas was there. Charlie had seen me in front of a camera and was like, Book, you need to take a good look at this guy. So Book, to his credit, also invited me to a tryout that they were having. WWE was having. Tommy Dreamer at that time was the one bringing in talent. So he brought in a bunch of bodies, a bunch of guys who looked the part, girls. I mean, Brooke Tessmacher was out there. I think that was the very first wrestling thing to do with wrestling. But you had like Sergeant Slaughter, you had Fit Finley, you had Michael Cole, you had Kyoto. I mean, you had Booker T. So you had a who's who. I mean, outside of like Arn Anderson and Vince, you had like kind of the brain trust of guys that were going to potentially get you jobs. So I just tried to shine. The very first thing I did was tie up with a guy who was wearing an NWO shirt, like baseball gloves, jeans, like had no business being in the ring. Booker saw that and was like, all right, get out. Let's see you with somebody. Yeah. Then the next thing was to cut a promo, and I killed on the promo. I've always felt like that's the thing that I can do better than most, if not better than all. I have that ability to draw people in. And I said my stuff, and I basically told everyone that I'm after your spot. Doesn't matter if you're Tommy Dreamer and you have a job, I'm coming after your spot. Doesn't matter if you're Booker T, I'm coming after your spot. I don't really care.
I like it.
So luckily at the end of it, they had this tag team match. It was me, Russell, Mike Fox, and I can't remember the last guy for the life of me. We got to do this tag match in front of everybody. Now, even the guys who were invited by Tommy Dreamer didn't get to do this. So, and we showed out pretty well. They had a house show at SmackDown, so we got to go. He had his students, Booker had his students, and we got invited, me and Franco, and we were dressed like business casual because that's how I was always taught. You got to dress like you're ready for business. And luckily for me, Paul London and Brian Kendrick and Super Crazy and a few guys that I knew were backstage, so I got to meet with them. After the tryout, Booker pulled me aside and said, hey, would you like to come join the school? And that's all it took. Mind you, I'm a top guy at PCW. I'm on weekly television. My girlfriend is there. All my, everything that I had was there. But at the same time, nothing really was holding me back. I mean, I had the conversation with the girlfriend and said, hey, this is an opportunity. So basically what I did was I packed everything into my Isuzu Rodeo, everything that I owned. I was lucked out in a sense that I had a cousin that lived in Friendswood, and I said, just give me a place to stay for a week, and I'll figure it out. My folks were like, do you have a plan? I said, do I ever have a plan? No, I'll figure it out. I lucked out getting a job. I lucked out in some respects because I had other skills to find employment, and I was there at that point. And my very first match for Booker was against Umaga. Rest in peace. Umaga, who had even said afterwards that if, and at that point, Umaga was a guy that no one could get offense on. John Cena was getting beat up to him. Right, yeah. Triple H couldn't get offense on him. So, I mean, I'm just a local indie guy. Yeah. So my first debut was, okay, I'm the sacrificial lamb. The day of the show, oh, this is your opponent. Sweet. Awesome. Good to meet you. All right. We're going to go out there, have a good time. Talk to me while I was out there. We had a good show. Book liked it, and I was there for a little bit. Unfortunately, March of 2007, my girlfriend passed. Pretty tragic. I mean, murder, suicide type of deal. And then after that, Benoit passed, and my mentality changed. I mean, when my girlfriend passed, I couldn't watch PCW stuff anymore because she's on that with me, walking me, and it just felt awkward. Like I went to a benefit show shortly thereafter, and it was just weird being in a locker room. Book was really supportive of it. But then after Benoit, I think, the business changed. Like, to be a wrestler at that point, I mean, the scrutiny. I mean, I work at a law firm, and I mean, I had people that knew I wrestled their attitudes change.
Yeah.
Because, again, because we all treated Benoit as the guy. I mean, if up until that point, professional wrestling, that's the guy who's on the the picture in the dictionary. Right. If you looked up professional wrestler, how you handle business, how you are professional, how you carry yourself. I mean, I talked to numerous people that knew him and were like, this is the epitome of what a professional wrestler is. And to say, man, he was one of my heroes. Yeah. And when he passed, I was shocked because I got called when they found out. Next to when Eddie Guerrero died, which was another, like, I get a call at work, like, oh my God, it's kind of, it's just a big shock. I shared a locker room with Eddie Guerrero. That was one thing. But like Benoit was, man, that crazy. And then from there, I needed to get away for a little bit, and kind of went and did my own thing and used my creative mind to do other stuff. And then, earlier, 2012, when I decided I hurt myself and I was making a comeback of sorts, and the one place I wanted to come to was ROW. I'd heard about the rebranding. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, I had heard that unlike PWA, they were going to do different things as far as how they brought out the product. It wasn't going to be about DVD. It was going to be putting stuff on YouTube. It was going to be giving guys more of an opportunity to shine. I mean, part of the reason PWA at times didn't seem as connective, if you went to one show, you didn't have to go to every show because the storylines didn't flow. Well, now they run almost like a weekly episodic thing. So it's different, and I had heard some really good stuff. And, even though there was some friction at one point with me and Book, and again, I think given the situation, given the guy that I teamed with didn't have the best reputation there and really didn't have the best attitude. And, unfortunately you're guilty by association. You hang out with that person and you don't realize that they're not doing right. And it's only until you kind of take a step back and go, wait a minute. So when I first showed up to ROW, the first thing I did was seek out Book. And me and Book had a really good conversation. It was really kind of, a good chance. And I mean, I respect a lot of people in the business, but Book is one of those guys. And I've always looked at it like I didn't have the chance to train under Shawn Michaels, which I always consider kind of a regret, even though I got good training and I met some good people, and I'm not regretting where I'm at in the business. At the same time, I always looked at Book as that second opportunity. Because again, people can say whatever they want, but you're out of school in Booker T's, or you're in a locker room with Booker T, a guy who's made money in this business. I mean, when I first met him, he was King Booker, which I thought was the most underrated heel champion probably since JB. I mean, a great heel champion like that. That character was awesome. His stuff with Boogeyman, like everything, from his Houston day, from his global days to now. I mean, and he's always made money. And that's the thing about other indie companies. It's like you don't have that. You don't have a guy who's been successful at the top.
You don't have like a focal point.
Yeah, you don't have. Well, it's more like it's one thing to get advice from someone who's been in the business for 20 some odd years, or has had some local success. Like even me, I have some local success, but from a grander stage, I mean, who would you rather get advice from? Someone who's kind of done it on a local level, or may have done TV here and there, or from a guy who's made good money on top and continue. I mean, the guy's a Hall of Famer. Yeah. I mean, at this point, like, why wouldn't you? On top of it, he runs a weekly show, in essence, a weekly show. I mean, it's once a month, but the tapings, they're on YouTube. I mean,
they get posted every week.
Yeah, there's a good chance. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into ROW that make it a good place. Like, I wouldn't be there if I didn't see it as a good place to be. Like, I think there's a big payoff for being there as opposed to other companies. I mean, I might be champ at other companies, and that's a payoff in one respect, but to get that exposure, I mean, if it's got Booker's name on it, you're going to get seen by guys who could potentially get you to a higher level. Whereas some indies, it's difficult. It's not the same. So hopefully that answers. I know it's kind of long-winded.
We're in for a long night here, folks. Okay. That's a lot of interesting stuff there. I didn't know about a whole lot of that, and I'm a guy who's only missed like 3 ROW/PWA shows in its entire inception. Like, I've been to like almost every single damn one.
He's a lifer.
Yeah, I'm a lifer.
And we value your patronage.
Thank you.
Come to the next show.
Oh, I will.
I'm sure you'll be there, but still,
all that being said, and like you just, reveal a lot of awesome stuff about, the behind the scenes and getting in there and all that. Let's talk about a different show that you're involved with that, honestly, I mean, I'm going to, just we're all going to be honest here. I've never been to a TASW show.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been to one. I know it's been around since the Stone Age.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I mean, that's actually, you know.
No, it's got some longevity.
It's got some longevity, yeah. I've never been to one. But you're their champ right now.
Yes.
And there is going to be a show this upcoming weekend.
Yes.
And there's a lot of stuff going on there. And you know what? I am going to go to this show. It's going to be my first time. What all is going on at this show? Who you're wrestling? What can you tell me about this? And it's the 20th anniversary.
Yes.
Also,
TASW is proudly brings to you at Coach's Sports Bar the 20th annual Humble Rumble. For 20 years, they've put on the Humble Rumble. It's in Humble, a Coach's Sports Bar. It used to be at the Bingo Hall in Humble, Texas. That's kind of where it got its start. A lot of guys have come through that through that show, have participated in the Humble Rumble. Guys like Hot Stuff Hernandez and Samoa Joe and Christy Hemme and just a list of people, Necro Butcher. And I mean, there's just a list of people that have been on that show. Recently, actually, TASW as promotion, joined the Hall of Fame, the IHWE Hall of Fame. It just happened. They're a fairly new Hall of Fame, but it's still for the longevity. I think, you know, some of their people are like Bruiser Brody, Stan Hansen. There's a pretty comparable list. Now, this weekend, it's the Humble Rumble. It's kind of the biggest show of the year. It's going to be a Coach's Sports Bar, so you know that there's going to be plenty of alcohol for those that drink. There's plenty of good food for those who like to eat. They're going to have 10 exciting matches. At this time, I don't know who I'm facing, but at this time, I don't care who I'm facing because at Humble Rumble 19, I won the title. It was one of those goals. Like when I was hurt and decided to come back, that was one of my things to check off. I remember being at Humble Rumble 10. And then I went off and did my thing, but I always thought that's the one title because if you looked at the title, it reminds you of the winged eagle from WWE. So it's one of the titles that I really wanted. I got to last year. I faced Mysterious Q, this guy who's got all the tools in the world to probably be on the next level, and we had one great match. They're going to have 10 exciting matches, and there's going to be the full spectrum. You want women, they're going to be women. You want lucha libre, there's going to be lucha libre. You want hardcore, there's going to be hardcore. You want tag matches, there's going to be tag matches. Of course, it's going to be me. I have no idea who I'm facing. It could be anyone. It could be Ruthless Ryan Davidson.
It don't matter.
Yeah, it could be Ruthless Ryan Davidson. It could be Rockstar Robbie, who's the Cruiserweight champion for their company. It could be Aiden Christiana. It could be Kelly Kevin. It could be
Travis.
Yeah, it could be Tex Lone Star. I don't know. It could be about anybody. But so
I'm already booked.
It could be Travis and Tex Lone Star.
Nice. And I've held the belt for almost a year. It'll be a year this Saturday. It'll actually be. I won it March 31st, 2012. So March 30th. I mean, it's almost 365 days.
Wow.
I'm just looking forward to having. I mean, it's a piece of history. That belt is really instrumental for me. And again, aside from GCPPW, which is a great company, and aside from CWF, who was actually working with TASW. I mean, TASW travels all over the state. They don't just do Humble. They do Nacogdoches, or they do Brenham, or they do, I mean, throughout 2011, 2012, they did everywhere. Their first show of 2013 was in Port Lavaca. So, I mean, they have, I'll give Bob Murphy, the promoter, this. He's a great promoter to work for. And on top of that, he's always trying to raise the bar with guys. And at the same time, give guys a great place to work. You don't have to worry about the money that's coming in because you know you're going to get paid. It's from a wrestler. And from a fan standpoint, you don't have to worry about the entertainment because the entertainment's there. It's an old school feel because Bob, that's what he believes in, is in that old school mentality. But I mean, there will be blood, I'm sure. There will be chairs. There will be tables. Hopefully none in mine. Hopefully mine will be the popcorn match before the Rumble. But of course, I don't mind that. So
now you said before the Rumble.
The Rumble is the focus of the show. That every year, whoever wins that gets the opportunity to face the champion at a later date, similar to the Royal Rumble. Last year's winner was Abel Landry Jackson. So he won that, and then 2 months later he asked for his opportunity to face me, and I beat him, and that's on YouTube on my Lucha Lounge channel. So cheap plug. So man, like I said, if you haven't been to a show, just expect something for everybody. And family, it's a family environment as well, even though I just talked about all the hardcore and stuff. Family members are inviting the kids, show up. I mean, it's not in the bar area, it's off in the patio area. It should be good. Last year was a good crowd. I'm expecting a bigger crowd this year, so should be good times.
Awesome. Sounds like it's going to be a pretty good show.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. My first,
and if you like
Texas
ROW
All-Star.
guys, I mean, like I said, there are some ROW mainstays, like I said, Ruthless Ryan Davidson, Rockstar Robbie, and because it's the 20th anniversary, there's going to be some guys that haven't been there for a while, and some guys making returns. I know they're going to have a women's match. They're going to have some women debuting. So, I mean, it's going to be a little something for...
Yeah, it sounds like a pretty big show.
Yeah.
It's going to be a big deal. I'm like pumped. I really want to go now. You mentioned in there, other feds. And of course, when I introduced you, I said, oh yeah, you're, CWF and GCPPW. Did I say that right?
Yes, you did.
Yes, okay. Woo!
I commend you because sometimes I get it wrong. I always have to say like Gulf Coast Power Pro Wrestling. I have to say it.
Yes.
I sometimes say it just as a joke because there are so many letters. I thought TASW was a lot of letters, but GCPPW, yes, you can almost get tongue-tied.
All right. So you work all these other feds. Where all, like, is it just those three? Do you work any more? Where all do you work?
Okay.
Where don't you work?
Currently, since I am the GCPPW, CWF, and TASW champion, that kind of covers most of my month. And then when you got ROW, that's 4 weekends in a month. Outside of that, I'm at the point in my career where it's more about quality over quantity. I'm not looking to work every show. And there are shows that have invited me and said, hey man, we want to put you in a main spot. And it's like, well, let me see what you got first. And if I don't like it, why am I going to join it? I mean, being a champ is one payoff. I've said that. But then being an ROW, that's another payoff because of the exposure. And it's more about the exposure for me, or quality opponents, like getting to work quality people. I mean, you can go to any indie show and work someone and be in, I don't want to be in fear of getting hurt. I mean, that's the last thing that needs to cross my mind. I want to be able to be comfortable. So, I mean, I'm working primarily those. I've worked others. I've done a wide variety of tasks, whether it's booking or story writing or being a talent agent or being a wrestling consultant. I've done that. I think I saw you guys at one show where I actually consulted. I used to do Behind the Curtain with Justin Smith. We used to do kind of a behind-the-scenes version of what really goes on, some of the valleys and the peaks of being in the independent scene. Like I said, I've put together shows. I've tried to create buzz. Some people say I'm an overologist because I try to get everything over. That's the main objective of being a wrestler, is to get it over. You entertain the fans by getting it over. So I do a lot of that. I mean, I consult where I need to, or I'll book. I've booked weekly episodic shows. I've been part of a writing team where you have, it's like a scene from SNL, like behind the scenes where, I hate that idea. Why is that guy getting, why is that? Well, let's do this. And at the same time, just, now it's more of giving advice to guys that are younger in the business and trying to say, hey man, why would you do that in your match? Or why would you say that in your promo? Or why don't you look at the camera? Or, so on and so forth. When I book shows, especially, it's paramount to me that you have some form of getting it out there to people. Not just the audience that is there, but people that don't have the ability to see it. I mean, the power of YouTube. It's free advertising. Mm-hmm. So I always I told every company that I've ever been a part of, you need to have a YouTube presence. You need to have a Facebook presence. You need to, I'm not on Twitter, unfortunately, because I barely get on my Facebook as it is, although I'm on it, I'm probably prowling, but I'll put my status update here and there. But, I think, that's a big thing. Like, I look at a lot of companies, I go, what's your payoff? What are you trying to do? Are you trying to release videos, but you're not really trying to release stuff to get your company over and get your talent over? I mean, there's more to getting people over than just the match itself. It's like, what story they're trying to. I think that's a good thing about ROW, where they are trying to take what's happening behind the scenes and putting it out there for people. Because everyone's got a story. Everyone, and I think it humanizes the wrestler so that people know, look, man, we're all normal. It's just we happen to like to get beat up for a living, so or beat people up as the case with me, or looking sexy. You're still going to say it before you. I got married men with kids saying it. Not like that, people. Not like that. Right. Women say I'm sexy all the time, but I'm just saying gender equality with a big thing.
Keep backstepping there.
Yeah.
Go through the wall over there.
Well, I'm way at the wall. If you can see me. If people, I'm way at the wall. I just really project.
Well, that kind of spilled over to the next thing that I was going to like talk to you about, as far as like other duties that you have had. Sounds like you've done a little bit of booking, a little bit of like putting sets together, a little bit of, promoting. I mean, you kind of got your hand in many pots here.
Yeah.
Huh?
Renaissance man.
Well, I think it's important to kind of understand every aspect of the business. It's not just about performing. I mean, eventually your body's going to give out because age is undefeated. Time is undefeated. You eventually succumb to it, whether you want to or you don't. And in this day and age where youth is king because everyone's looking for the next young guy, where a 34-year-old professional athlete is over the hill and I'm going, 34, man. I mean, that was years ago. So I always learned, and plus I was always intrigued by the storytelling aspect, like, especially what companies were doing wrong. I mean, when I first started out, that's all I saw was what companies were doing wrong. So there were times where I'd be told, well, if you don't like it, do something about it. It's like, well, then I'll start I'll help with a promotion, or a company would come at me and say, well, we're just getting off the ground. Can we put you as a marquee name? I'm like, how about this? I get you talent and I get them over without me actually being in front of the camera. Let's see what I can do with my mind. And telling stories is awesome. I love telling stories. I love to see it. You write it on the page and go, hey guys, perform it, and then to see them perform it. Yeah. So I've always been interested in that. I did it really early in my career. I mean, when nobody else wanted to do it, no one else wanted to put shows together, no one else wanted, because they don't, it's a tireless, thankless job. They don't thank you, you don't get a credit a lot of times. I know when I did IWE a few years back, I didn't want credit. I didn't want people to know that I ran the show. I wanted people to love the product. I didn't want them to be concerned with me. I believe if you're the promoter, outside of if you're the figurehead in your name, that's your job. You're the figurehead in your name. But if you're just there to write the story, it's all about the talent that's going out there, because they're the ones who are having to perform it. So again, I've always been intrigued with the booking aspect. I've always been intrigued with the storyline aspect of seeing what you can get out of talent. Even what they don't realize they've got. Mm-hmm. A lot of guys, they don't know what's good, what's bad, what their weaknesses are, what their strengths are. I mean, that's, being critical to that and telling them, all right, man, this is the stuff you do well. Let's get that out there. Let's not focus on the stuff you don't do well. And again, to improve from my aspect too, and to improve as a performer, I've got to look at it that way. Cause I made the mistake when I first started with PCW of not shaking the head writer's hand because I didn't know he was the head writer. You wouldn't have been able to pick him out in a lineup. He looked like a regular guy.
He's a guy.
Yeah, he's wearing shorts and a t-shirt. I didn't realize that he was the guy who very well had my career in his hands. But it's like, I learned from that, like, you can't take for granted who's there. Everyone is important when they run a show. Everyone from the ones who put up the ring, to the ones who sweep the ring, to the ones who do concessions, to the ones who take the tickets. Everyone's important. And you have to have that kind of respect. Otherwise, you're going to go through it without it, and people are going to figure it out. I've always had respect from veterans that I've shared locker rooms with, as well as the office, because I understand what, how it can be to be a writer and go, and man, I really don't know what I can do with you. And it's like, okay. So.
Man, that's just a lot of information, man. That's just some really cool stuff. And it's interesting to see that there's a guy, like yourself who's involved here in this local area, doing all these things that's not just wrestling. Like, you're really trying to, help put other guys over, help put other promotions over, things like that. I think that's a really good thing to have here in this area, especially in this day and age here in Houston, where we're trying to have this bit of a resurgence here in the indie wrestling scene. That being said, how are you going to get out of here? how are you going to make it?
What's next for Stephen Walker?
How are you going to make it to the big leagues? That's why I should say.
Well,
what's your strategy?
Well, I think working for RW is one aspect because it is getting seen by those that could get you to the next level. I mean, being on the internet and the amount of hits that they get, and mind you, RW gets an amount of hits, but they definitely don't get the same amount of hits as, say, like a Zack Ryder's Z-True, that show. Yeah. I mean, stuff that's almost driven by having that kind of name or that kind of machine. But at the same time, it's a place to get seen. For me, it's at this point, like, okay, do I want to go to WWE? Yeah, because when I first broke in and started to get told that I was good enough, yeah, I want to go there. But the reality is, I'm a 38-year-old man in a 20-year-old business. I mean, you know, you got guys who are 18 coming out of high school who don't have a clue, and they're getting hired because WWE can train you. You know,
they can mold them.
Yeah, and I've heard rumors of them having their own university in a sense, to where they just bring people in and they can train you. So right now it's like, okay, I'm at that point. Well, what's the next step? Well, you know, maybe working behind the scenes. And it's like, well, working with Book, possibly that's an avenue. I went through TNA's gut check back in July of when they were in Houston.
Yeah.
I know that there was some some controversy with their voting system. Which I found kind of, you want us to pander for votes, which for me, it's like posting the link on Facebook and going, you know, if you want to vote for me, great. If not, here's a whole slew of guys you can see. I went there today actually, and found that they're going to restart the voting. It's a new voting system. Yeah. And I think mine's not until June, at least my bracket, but my bracket's with like Big O, who's got Zach.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, you know, I'm not as big of a name as his. Now, hopefully between now and June, maybe I get some more FaceTime at ROW and that translates to something. But at the same time, it's like, I'm not going to pander for votes, because I don't know if that's going to get me anywhere. It's just a matter of just trying to continue to work, continue to be ready, continue to, you know, see how long my body lasts to do it. Cause I mean, I'm not getting any younger, and I don't want to be one of those guys that's on Botchamania or people go, man, he's just kind of outstayed his welcome. I've always had kind of goals as far as I don't want to be carried out. I don't want to, you know, and I've been there paralyzed and having to be brought out and gone, man, I don't know if I want to do this again, or waking up and not really having a sense of my body's going to cooperate. I've been there. So if that ever happens again, yeah, I'll cut it before, you know, you won't see a retirement tour. It won't be like I make a big announcement. It'll just be one day I'm in and one day I'm out. And partly why I do these other things like, oh, I'll manage for guys or I'll do this is because I realize I'm not going to do it forever. I'm not Ric Flair. I'm not going to do it till I'm 65 unless I'm making that kind of money. If WWE hires me and says you're going to work for 10 more years, I'd be like, thank you. My paycheck is covered. It's awesome. But if I'm still doing the indie scene in the next year or two, it's going to be like, okay, well, what can I do? Because I know I can create, and I know I can book, and I know I can tell stories, and I know I can lead men, and men and women. So I'm not so much concerned about me as a performer. Now, if Gut Check worked out and I got to be on TNA, great. But then again, it's like, okay, you see guys who get on Gut Check, whether they win or lose, I think out of all of them, one guy's remained on the show, or two guys, because Joey Ryan, didn't get hired on right away, but he was like, hey guys, I'm just going to still be here. I don't live in Florida. You know, I mean, the likelihood of them coming to me, and again, I'm realistic. My age, I know as soon as they hear it, you know, it's not when I first broke in, but at the same time, I'm just happy. I'm in a good place mentally. I'm in a good place emotionally. I'm getting in a better place physically than I've been in a few months. So, you know, when my title reigns in, whenever they're going to be, I don't think they're going to be tomorrow. I don't think they're going to be next month. But when they end, then it's like, okay, I'll probably continue to do ROW until one of two things happens. Either I gain a spot of some kind of security on the backstage end, or I get discovered, so to speak. And then it's like, oh, well, you're on Thursdays or Wednesdays or Saturdays or Fridays or Mondays, or, you know. But again, I'm a realist about it. So
I know you said you're not going to pander for votes, but can we pander for you?
Yeah. If other people want to say vote for me, awesome. Because, you know, Big O's a big muscle-bound guy, and I'm a better mic guy than probably 99% of the guys in the business currently that have TV jobs. So,
all right, folks, we're going to get the link up for you as soon as we can.
Probably be in June, so and then I'll probably come back on the show and believe, please, guys, have
Vinny
them vote for me.
Vinny will be pandering, yes.
Yes. That'll be the only time. On podcasts, I'll pander for it. I just won't be I saw some people on Facebook that were just every day like, please vote for me, and please vote. And I'm like, I can't do that. I can't. Like it. And really, it was...
There's a level of integrity
Yeah,
in play
it's just
there,
kind of like, look, I know I'm good enough. I know that if you put me in the ring with anyone, I can compete on that level. If you put me on against John Cena in a mic contest, I know I can cut better promos than that guy, especially as of late. If you put me with Rock, I'd probably do, the only guy that I'd go, okay, you can test me is Punk. That's the only guy. And really, I've been told that we're very similar in the fact that we just can go out there and talk. We don't need bullet points. We don't need a script. I don't need to be told what to say. You just tell them, this is the situation. And then I'll do the rest. So.
Hell, this podcast right now is evidence of that.
Take that, Ransom. No. He was a stand-up guy, man. I listened to that show and I went, Ransom, you're awesome. And then Stash, the guy's most over guy in the ref in the business.
Those are two really good interviews that we had on here. Look, man. I could probably talk to you or let you talk for another 2 or 3 hours, but man, we got a show to get to.
No, fair enough. I think I've said my piece. So,
yeah, and that's not to say, we won't have you on again. Sure, you can come back on our show.
Maybe if I win a title at ROW, then
maybe. Yes, there you go.
I'm hoping that'll be sooner rather than later. Not getting any younger, so I might just have to start asking. I'll go to Charmel and go, I did, just give me a shot. Come on. It's not like I can go in there like, I demand it. I have to go, ma'am, with all due respect, just please. Because she's got Cash as like her big protector. That's bad enough. Then she's Charmel. It's like, Queen Charmel, I'm sorry. Just don't hurt me.
Oh, that's great. All right. But before we get out of this, how, I know you said you don't really do Twitter. Where else can we find you? You said you have a YouTube account?
Yes, it's if you look up Steve DeMarco, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube, you can usually find me. Or you'll find a rapper, or you'll find real estate. So we can help you somehow. But it's the Lucha Lounge on YouTube, or again, Steve DeMarco. You can usually find me. I've been doing YouTube for a few years, so I'm on video like 184, about to do 185 here pretty soon. On Facebook, again, Steve DeMarco. I've got a fan page. You can like that. I've probably got like 300 likes. So the more likes, the better. And then my page, and they're all pretty similar, but at the same time, it's, I do that. And then aside from that, if you Google Steve DeMarco, I'm sure you can find me somewhere, whether it's with Reality of Wrestling or with Gulf Coast Power Pro Wrestling or Coastal Wrestling Federation or Texas All-Star Wrestling or the whole slew of it. Or, there's some stuff out there that
basically just look up any, local wrestling in the Houston area.
Yeah.
You're going to see Stephen Martin.
Yeah, I'm somewhere on there.
All right. Awesome. I guess I'll wrap it up right now for just the interview portion. Let's go ahead and get to talking about regular old wrestling for this week. Trav?
The guys who make a lot of money.